Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about how to build Ganyu. But before we start, I'm going to compare her stats with other 5 stars heroes. Okay, we're going to look at Diluc first. You can look at Diluc at level 90, his base attack is 335. Keqing here at level 90, her crit rate is 88.4%. Now we look at Ganyu. Ganyu has base attack 335 on par with Diluc. And then critical rate is on par with Keqing with the same 88.4%. So she's definitely a main DPS material. However, if you can see that his base HP and base defense is kind of low. It's kind of like a 4 stars kind of stats. Since she's a glass cannon, either you're very godlike at dodging every single attack. Otherwise, you probably want to have a support that provides shield, such as Diona, Noelle, Zhongli, for example. Her normal attack though, I think it's pretty horrible. It's pretty slow, and I would say it's almost as slow as Amber's. Ganyu has a 2-level charge shot, very interesting. She has a level 1 and a level 2, so the level 1 is just like any regular bow user. When you charge it up, you get your represented element attack. And then when it's fully charged, level 2, you get the initial charge level 1 shot. On top of that, you'll get an AoE cryo damage splash. Even if you miss your target, as long as it's fully charged and as long as you hit something, like the ground, like the wall, you'll get the splash. Not to forget to mention that her scaling is actually not very good as well when it comes to her normal attack. But her aim shot and the aim shot level 1 and 2 is pretty amazing. A lot of damage. Talent 2 is her elemental skill. She basically slides back while doing cryo damage. And then she'll plant a Lotus Seed that'll bait the enemy into focusing it, and then when the Lotus Seed gets destroyed or expires, it'll deal a small explosion. Small AoE explosion. Her elemental skill gives her energy particle. I do believe it's each target that you hit during that elemental skill gives you 1 particle. So it's like 5 target, then would be 5 particle. That helps her fill up her elemental burst really quickly. It's actually really good. It attacks, it baits, and it recharges energy. It serves a lot of purposes in just 1 skill. The Ice Lotus is based off of her maximum HP, so the higher HP she has, the more health the Ice Lotus has. The skill damage is really good, and level 1 is already 132%, so definitely a very strong elemental skill in my opinion. Talent 3. Talent 3 is her elemental burst. This is what makes her super broken. Basically, she rains icicles. And if you look at the skill attributes, at level 1, they do quite good damage, 70%, and the duration is 15 seconds while the cooldown is 15 seconds, which means there's no cooldown in between. So basically, as long as you have your elemental burst up, after you use your first burst, you can use it right away. The radius is crazy too. I think it's just, I don't know what they're thinking. It's too good. The energy cost is average. Low would be at the 40, 60 is average. Actually, I think 80 is the average. 60 is considered kind of low already. But yeah, it's easy. And she gets so much energy particles during that, even without attacking herself. And if you feel like you need to get more, you can definitely go in and squeeze in a elemental skill. Make sure your elemental burst gauge is filled up. Talent 4. Talent 4 is her passive. After firing a Frost Flake arrow, the critical rate of subsequent Frost Flake arrows and the resulting bloom effects is increased by 20% for 5 seconds. So there's a built-in critical rate increase buff. So there's no way you're not, like I said, her normal attack is not great. So you're most likely going to fight her with charge attack most of the time, with the charge shot. So every time you do a charge shot, you will get this buff every 5 seconds. So basically it's unlimited buff. Okay, so she does have a built-in of 20% critical rate. However, if you have another cryo member on the team, right here, Shattering Ice, affected by Electro for 40% less time, increases critical rate against opponents that are frozen or affected by cryo by 15%. So basically, if you have another ice member on the team, now your critical rate will increase again by another 15%. So with the passive, we're talking about like 35% without any artifact or weapon build. Which is why I think Diona is a really good hero to pair up with Ganyu. because Leona can protect her and then heal her as well. And on top of that, she's gonna benefit from this having 2 ice members in the team. Talent 5 here, during her elemental burst, whoever is inside that AoE is gonna deal extra 20% cryo bonus damage. Isn't it crazy? Basically, she is self-buffing herself too, and after that she can use her elemental burst again, and she's gonna keep getting infinite buffs. Okay, last talent here, refunds 15% of the ores used when crafting bow type weapons. Pretty good, 15% discount when you upgrade a weapon. Pretty good, 15% discount when you upgrade a bow. Now let's take a look at her Constellation. Constellation 1. Constellation 1 is already like super good. I think without the Constellation she's already so broken, but with this it's like extra broken. So basically when she does her level 2 charge shot, opponent's cryo resistance decreases by 15% for 6 seconds, which means your charge shot is going to deal even more damage. And then a hit regenerates 2 energy for Ganyu, as if her elemental skill doesn't regenerate enough. Constellation 2, basically she can use another elemental skill. You can charge up to 2. Constellation 3 increases her elemental burst level by 3. Constellation 4 is very broken. Basically, when you use her elemental burst, the damage increases gradually. Every 3 seconds it increases by 5% and maximum of 25%. Constellation 5 increases the elemental skill level by 3. So Constellation 6, so using her elemental skill causes the next charge shot within 30 seconds to not require charging. So this one, this only applies to level 1 Frostflake arrow shot. The level 2 you still need time to charge, which is really good because the first one now you're probably saving a second. So you basically need like 0.5 seconds to get to the level 2 charge shot. I mean, it's good, but it's not, I don't find it amazing. I find it like a little bit underwhelming for a Constellation 6. So I think Constellation 1 is more hype than Constellation 6. That's me. Okay, usually I go over weapons before artifact, but this time I'm going over artifact before weapon for a reason, which I'll explain later. But anyways, let's look at the first artifact I'm going to recommend. So as a main DPS charge shot focused playstyle, Wanderer's set is definitely the best for her. If she's your main DPS, which means she's the one staying on the battlefield the longest, so the elemental mastery will help her deal extra damage when it triggers elemental reaction. So when it comes to the force set, increases charge attack damage by 35% if the character uses the catalyst or bow. If she's your main DPS, I'm pretty sure you want to only focus on using charge shot. It's so broken and so strong and it does a lot of damage. So this will allow her dealing extra 35% damage. Okay, we have the next set here, Blizzard Strayer here. Cryo damage bonus by 50% when you have 2 pieces. And when you have 4 pieces, when a character attacks an opponent affected by cryo, their crit rate is increased by 20%. If the opponent is frozen, crit rate is increased by another additional 20%. Okay, so this is for a sub carry, which means you're using her as DPS and support. So, but she probably won't be the one staying on the battlefield the most time, but maybe 40% of the time. I personally think this set is the best for her. The reason why is because first, everything she does deals cryo damage. So that cryo damage bonus plus 15% is great. And then now the force set is the one that makes me think that this is definitely her best for main DPS or even sub DPS, to be honest. So when a character attacks an opponent affected by cryo, which is pretty much everything that she does, their crit rate is increased by 20%. Don't forget that if you have 2 ice members on the team, including her, that's 15%. And then her passive, that's 20%. So she already has 35%. Or, well, you know what? Let's not think about that. She has another ice member. So she has 20% from her passive. So any opponent that's affected by cryo increases her critical rate by 20%. That's 40%. If the opponent is frozen, critical rate is increased by another 20%. So regardless with or without teammate, that's 40% if you use this set. But if you have a teammate of Hydro teammate, that's 60%. And then if you have another, because your Hydra is going to help you freeze. And then if you have another, your third member will be a ice member, that's another 20%. No, that's another 15%, I'm sorry. So total, that's 75% without any, well, I can't say without any artifact, so this is the artifact, but without thinking about the main or substats on your artifact. So crazy. Now you can basically focus on building your critical damage. Okay, so the next set I would recommend would be the 2+2 set. So the 2 piece of Blizzard and then 2 piece of Noblesse. So this one is more leaning towards the elemental burst side. So you want to deal damage from or triggering your elemental reaction, but of course not as a main DPS. So this is like less shooting arrows and more of elemental skill and burst. Okay, so the last set I'm going to recommend is the Noblesse set. So this is mainly for DPS support. So you want to spam the elemental burst as often as possible. So using an elemental burst increases all party members' attack by 20% for 12 seconds. This effect cannot stack. So if her job is just to go into the battlefield, use her elemental burst, you know, buffs your team, and then you switch in your main DPS, and then he or she, whoever your main DPS is, will get that extra 20% attack. So I don't know if you want to play her like that because it's extremely strong, the elemental burst, but I feel like she is strong with her damage. So probably I think main DPS or sub DPS would suit her better. But again, really depends how you want to play your team and how you want to play this character. Okay, now we are going to go over the artifact main stats and substats. So the flower attack, you're stuck with the flat HP and attack. So timepiece, you want to get attack percent. The cup, you want cryo bonus damage, but if you're not lucky enough, you do want to at least use attack percent. So the headpiece, you want critical damage percent, which is why I extremely recommend using the Blizzard Strayer artifact, because this allows you to not bother building critical rate. Okay, so now for substats, you want critical damage, critical rate, attack percent, and HP percent. That's in order. So you want even more critical damage and a lot of critical rate. And then attack is like, you should have enough from your main stats already. And of course you do want all of these in every single artifact, every single piece. But of course, you have to be really lucky to do so. Also, do not forget that when you're doing your charge shot, your initial shot, your first shot, if you hit your opponent's weakest point, it's 100% guaranteed critical rate. So that is where your critical damage comes into play, because you're going to get that critical rate 100% regardless, and you want to make sure you crit your AoE splash as well. So it's time to talk about the weapon. So let's talk about the 5 stars weapon first. So the first one we have is the Skyward Harp. So this one is for your main DPS, really good, increases critical rate and damage. So if you feel like you're not having enough crit rate, use this, because this one's sub stats is critical rate percentage. And then next we have Amos Bow. So this one, if you feel like you have enough crit rate but not enough attack percentage, then use this bow. So the 5 stars bow are way better than the 4 stars one. You don't even have to think about using the 4 stars one if you have the 5 stars bow. Now we'll go over the 4 stars one. So the Black Cliff one, as a main DPS, if you want more critical damage, use this one. Okay, next we have the Stringless. If you want to spam elemental burst, use this bow. We'll use it with Noblesse set or the 2+2 set that I recommend it. If you do want to use her just for the charge shot, the prototype is really good for that. Okay, finally, so if you don't have any luck with a 4 stars bow, you can use the 3 stars bow. So this one's also for charge shot focus. Alright guys, that is it for this video. I hope this video helped you understand the character better and how to build this character properly. Thank you for watching. If you find this useful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.